K'tivach Shavua Tov. We are learning Mishna Gittin. Today's Mishnah is sponsored by the Garland children, L'zeich HaNishmas, memory of their uncle Gavriel ben Moshe Nachum, and Hashem Shaban Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay. Now, typically, if you want to be able to establish that a woman got married or got divorced, you have to have witnesses, or she has to present her get. Now, in this case, we're going to talk about a scenario where we're actually going to assume something, going to assume her status, even though we don't have witnesses directly testifying about her marriage or about her divorce. So the Mishnah says, Yatsa Shma Ba'ir Mekudeshes, Harezim Mekudeshes. If a report went out in the city about an unmarried girl saying that she became Mekudeshes, that someone had betrothed her, and now, if she wants to now, so there's a report. We'll talk about what this report is exactly. There's no testimony, there's no witnesses, but there is a report that she became Mekudeshes, that she was betrothed. Harezim Mekudeshes. We assume her to be married, which would mean if she were to claim, no, I'm not married, and I want to just go and marry this guy, we wouldn't let her. Because based on the report, she is Mekudeshes, she's betrothed, she's married to this person that the report said she's married to. The same thing, Megareshes. Well, actually, not the same thing. Megareshes. Let's say the report went out that she became divorced, which in this context means she became divorced. There's a report she became divorced from the guy. There was a report that she became Mekudeshes to. Harezim Megareshes. Here too, we say she is assumed to be divorced. Okay, so what's going on here? So number one, this report, what does it consist of? How does it come about? So for a report to be accepted, I'm reading here from the notes, people must say, number one, the name of the man who betrothed her. Number two, that she got married that day, meaning betrothed, with name Mekudeshes. She didn't go to the chuppah that day. She became Mekudeshes. He gave her the ring, which makes her completely married. And number three, that she got married in that city. Okay, that's where, the report has to consist of these details before it can even be considered. Otherwise, we do not take the report seriously. Okay, now what's the report? They're just going and saying, oh, we heard she got Mekudeshes? What's happening exactly? So the base of this report is that at least two witnesses say that they saw a house with lit candles and the furniture arranged as it would be to celebrate a betrothal, with people coming out, in and out, and saying the girl was betrothed to this man today in the city. Meaning you've got some, the situation is that, there's witnesses to the fact that the house was set up to celebrate a kedushin, to celebrate a marriage. People were coming in and out of the house saying that so-and-so, this girl became betrothed to this man here in this city. And that's the basis for the report. Do we have witnesses directly testifying that she became Mekudeshes? No, we don't. But we have witnesses testifying that the situation calls for that she is Mekudeshes. What are they testifying? That the house had candles, the house was arranged for a Kedushin celebration, people going into the house saying she's Mekudeshes. That's the report. If that's the report, then we assume she's Mekudeshes. Even if she insists that she was not betrothed, we require her to receive a get before remarrying, so that people should not say that a married woman left her husband and got remarried without receiving a get. Meaning basically what's happening here is that we don't really have enough testimony to say for sure she's married, but we have enough to say that we're not going to let her remarry someone unless she gets a get from this guy. Because the report is a solid report, people are going to think she's married, and then she just goes marry somebody else without a get. That doesn't look good. That looks like she's really married and just getting married to somebody else. Therefore, under these circumstances, we say if she's going to go in and get married to somebody else, she's got to get a get from this guy. Now, that's the first case where we say there's a report that she was Mekudeshes. Then it says that there's a report that she was Meguresh, that she was divorced. And we explain this to me, this is not just what does it mean a report? What's the report based on? So the case of the report for being divorced is a continuation from this story. Here too, we do not have witnesses saying that they saw the actual divorce. Right? She doesn't present a get to say she's divorced. Rather, two witnesses say that they heard from two others, and listen to this one, you'll like this one. Rather, two witnesses say that they heard from two others who said they heard it from yet other people who claimed to have seen it. Meaning, again, we don't have the witnesses directly seeing them, being able to testify she's divorced. But we have people saying that they heard from people who say that they saw it. Such hearsay testimony is not usually acceptable in both cases. Only someone who actually saw what happened is considered a true witness. However, because they say they heard it from two witnesses, it's at least considered a serious report. Okay? So basically, we're dealing with situations where we don't have testimony, but we have a serious enough report that we have to consider it. We cannot let her move on without dealing with that assumption. Okay? Now, at the same time, however, if we knew for sure, on the basis of two witnesses, that she had been betrothed, we would not allow her to remarry based only on a report. Meaning, let's say we had two witnesses, she was Mekudeshes, and we only have a report that she's divorced from this guy. That's not enough. She would then have to bring to court the witnesses who actually saw the divorce, or bring her get. Okay? So in this case, we have a situation where we have a report about the Kedushin. We'll call it, as they call it, a serious report. Then we have a serious report about her gerish and her divorce from this situation. Basically, it's a report against a report. The whole basis for Kedushin was a report. Now she's divorced. Now the divorce is based on a report. Okay, that's enough. If the whole thing was a report to begin with, and now we have enough of a report afterwards that she's Megareshes, we can rely on that. Because the whole starting point was a report. But if we're talking about that she had Kedushin based on witnesses, we know by witnesses that she had Kedushin, then this kind of report would never be able to work to say that to assume she's divorced. Okay, so now the Mishnah continues and says, all right, so we have these assumptions, serious assumptions. And based on those serious assumptions, we assume she's married. And then we hear a report that she's divorced. We assume she's divorced. However, in both these cases, to consider the report serious enough, there cannot be an amasla. There cannot be basically a reservation attached to it. That's how they translate. Amasla really means a parable. But the point is, there's no excuses here. Meaning, if there's something by which we can wait, there's a reservation about the report, there's something we can weaken the report with, then we don't rely on the report. What's an example of that? So the Mishnah gives an example, both for the case of divorce and for the case of marriage, which could have been switched, which could actually have been applied by either one. Ezehi Amasla, what is an example of a reservation? Here it goes. Gerish ish pleni as ishtoi al tanai. The report that went out was that so-and-so divorced his wife on condition. Meaning, condition had to be met that she should be divorced. Okay, do we know that the condition was met? No, we don't. We don't know. Okay, we don't know. So now the question is, basically like in the case before, when we had a report that she was Megureshes from this guy. So what's the at the end of the day, what's the practical ramification of that? Meaning, okay, we assume she was married, and I'm sorry. When we assume she was married, and now we assume she's divorced, we can assume she's divorced. She'd go marry somebody else without anything further. But now we have a situation where there is a report that she was Mekudeshes, she was betrothed. Then there's a report that she was divorced, but on condition. Do we know the condition was met? We don't know. But there's a report that she was divorced on condition. Who says the condition was met? And therefore, in that situation, we don't have enough of a basis to now say, well, the marriage was only on a report, so now this kind of report can help also. No, it doesn't, because there's basically a reservation. There's something attached to it saying there's a big but, right? There may be a report that she's Megureshes, but there is a condition to it. How do we know the condition was fulfilled? And therefore, that report is not going to be enough to break the report about her being Mekudeshes. Now, another example, Zarak la Kiddusheha. The case of the Kiddushin was, the report went out that this guy threw the Kiddushin to her. He didn't put the ring on her, he threw it to her. And it was Safek HaRavla, Safek HaRavlai. And the question is it closer to him or closer to her? We had this case before. That you can have a situation where, if he throws it to her, depending on where it lands, that'll make a difference if she's Mekudeshes or divorced, if it would be the other way around. Okay, or the other way around. So in this case, again, there's a report. She was Mekudeshes to this guy, right? And it's really interesting because the report would have to have, they had the candles and they had the whole house set up, and people are going out saying he gave Kedushin to her, but we don't know. Did it land closer to him or closer to her? In that case, Zui Amasla, that's another reservation. That's going to again say, and in the case of Kedushin, we're not going to start saying, oh, well, her status has changed. She's going to need a get from this guy before she can marry somebody else. When the report is not real testimony, it's just a report. And now we basically have this reservation about it, because the report is that she's Mekudeshes. Basically, the report is maybe she's Mekudeshes. Maybe. Because we don't know, did it land closer to him or closer to her? That is not going to be enough to go ahead, and that's not going to be enough to go to change her status and say that she needs to get from this guy if she says, no, I wasn't Mekudeshes. Because again, the whole report is very iffy. We have no idea if really she's Mekudeshes or not based on the report. That kind of weak report isn't going to be enough to change her status, in the case of Kedushin, from being a single woman to a possibly married woman. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Rabbi.